Harry made his way down to the end of the year feast alone that night. He had been held up by Madame Pomfrey's fussing, insisting on giving him one last checkup, so the great hall was already full. It was decked out in Slytherin colors of green and silver to celebrate Slytherin's winning of the House Cup for the 7th year in a row. A huge banner showing the Slytherin serpent covered the wall behind the high table. When Harry walked in, there was a sudden hush, and then everybody started talking loudly at once. He slipped into a seat between Ron and Hermione at the Gryffindor table and tried to ignore the fact that people were standing up looking at him. Fortunately, Dumbledore arrived moments later. The babble died away. "Another year gone," Dumbledore said cheerfully, "and I must trouble you with an old man's weaseling waffle before we sink our teeth into this delicious feast. What a year it has been. Hopefully your heads are a little fuller than they were. You have a whole summer ahead to get them nice and empty before next year. Now, as I understand it, the House Cup here needs awarding, and the points stand thus. In 4th place, Gryffindor with 312 points. In 3rd, Hufflepuff with 352. Ravenclaw with 426. And Slytherin with 472. A storm of cheering and stamping broke out from the Slytherin table. Harry could see Draco Malfoy banging his goblet on the table. It was sickening. Yes, well done, Slytherin," said Dumbledore. "However, recent events must be taken into account." The room went very still. The Slytherins' smiles faded a little. "Ahem," said Dumbledore. "I have a few last-minute points to dish out. Let me see. Yes. First, to Mr. Ron Weasley." Ron went purple in the face. He looked like a radish with a bad sunburn. "For the best played game of chess Hogwarts has seen in many years, I award Gryffindor 50 points." Gryffindor cheers nearly raised the bewitched ceiling. The stars overhead seemed to quiver. Percy could be heard telling the other prefects, "My brother, my youngest brother, got past McGonagall's giant chess set." At last, silence again. Second, to Miss Hermione Granger, for the cool use of logic in the face of fire, I award Gryffindor 50 points. Hermione buried her face into her arms. Harry strongly suspected she would burst into tears. Gryffindors up and down the table were beside themselves. They were 100 points up. Third, to Mr. Harry Potter, said Dumbledore. The room went deadly quiet. For pure nerve and standing courage, I award Gryffindor 60 points. The din was deafening. Those who could add were yelling themselves hoarse, knew that Gryffindor now had 472 points, exactly the same as Slytherin. They had drawn for the House Cup. It was only Dumbledore who had given Harry just one more point. Dumbledore raised his hand. The room gradually fell quiet. There are all sorts of courage, said Dumbledore, smiling. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. I therefore award 10 points to Mr. Neville Longbottom. Someone standing outside the Great Hall might have thought some sort of explosion had taken place. So loud was the noise that erupted from Gryffindor table. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood up to yell and cheer as Neville, white with shock, disappeared from hiding under people hugging him. He had never won so much as a single point for Gryffindor before. Harry, still cheering, nudged Ron in the ribs and pointed towards Malfoy, who couldn't have looked much more stunned and horrified, as if he had the Bonnie Bind curse himself. Which means Dumbledore called over to the storm of applause, for even Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff were celebrating the downfall of Slytherin. We need to change the decorations. He clapped his hands. In an instant, green hangings became scarlet and the silver became gold. The huge Slytherin serpent vanished, and a towering Gryffindor lion took its place. Snape was shaking Professor McGonagall's hand with a horrible forced smile. He caught Harry's eye, and Harry knew at once that Snape's feeling towards him hadn't changed. This didn't worry Harry. It seemed as though life would be back to normal next year, or at least as normal as it was ever going to get at Hogwarts. It was the best evening at Harry's life, better than winning the Quidditch or Christmas or knocking out Mountain Trolls. he would never ever forget tonight. And there's a picture of the hall. Harry had almost forgotten the exam results were still to come, but they did. To their great surprise, both he and Ron passed with good marks. Hermione, of course, came top of the year. Even Neville scraped through, his good herbology mark making up for his abysmal potions one. They hoped that Goyle, who was as stupid as he was mean, might be thrown out, but he passed too. It was a shame, but as Ron said, you couldn't have everything in life. And suddenly their wardrobes were empty and their trunks were packed. Neville's toad was found lurking around in a corner. Notes were handed out to all the students, warning them not to use magic over the holidays. Hagrid was there to take them down to the fleet of boats that sailed across the lake. They were boarding the Hogwarts Express, talking and laughing as the countryside became greener and tidier, eating Bertie's Bott's every flavor beans as they sped across Muggle towns, pulling their wizard robes off and putting on jackets and coats, pulling into platforms 9 3/4 at King's Cross Station. It took quite a while for them to get off the platform. The wizened old guard was up by the ticket barrier, letting them go through the gate in 2s and 3s so they didn't attract attention by bursting out solid wall at once, alarming the Muggles. "You must come and stay this summer," said Ron. "Both of you. I'll send an owl." "Thanks," said Harry. "I'll need something to look forward to." People jostled them as they moved forwards and towards the gate back to the Muggle world. Some of them called, "Bye, Harry." "See you, Potter." "Still famous," said Ron, grinning at him. "Not where I'm going, I promise," said Harry. He, Ron, and Hermione passed through the gateway together. "There he is, Mum. Look, there he is." It was Ginny Weasley, Ron's younger sister, but she wasn't pointing at Ron. "Harry," she squealed. "Look, Mum, I can see." "Be quiet, Ginny. It's rude to point." Mrs. Weasley smiled down at them. "Busy year?" she said. "Very," said Harry. "Thanks for the fudge and the jumper, Mrs. Weasley." "Oh, it was nothing, dear." "Ready?" It was Uncle Vernon, still purple-faced, still mustached, still looking furious at the nerve of Harry, carrying an owl in a cage in a station full of ordinary people. Behind him stood Aunt Petunia and Dudley, looking terrified at the sight of Harry. "You must be Harry's family," said Mrs. Weasley. "In a matter of speaking," said Vernon. "Hurry up, boy, we haven't got all day," and he walked away. Harry hung back for the last word with Ron and Hermione. "See you over the summer, then. Hope you have a good holiday," said Hermione, looking uncertainly after Vernon, shocked that anyone could be so unpleasant. "Oh, I will," said Harry. They were surprised at the grin that was spreading over his face. "They don't know we're not allowed to use magic. I'm going to have a summer full of lots of fun with Dudley." The end of book 1. And here's a picture of Hogwarts Castle. How nice.